Welcome, dear listener, to a gentle journey back through the mists of time. Close your eyes if you wish. Let the world around you fade like the last light of day. We are stepping into the medieval world, a place where the sun dips low and the shadows lengthen, revealing the hidden rhythms of life. This is not a tale of kings and queens, nor of battles and banners waving in the wind. No, this is a soft exploration of the strange jobs that ordinary people held hundreds of years ago, jobs that kept the wheels of society turning, even as the night crept in. These were the unsung roles, the quiet necessities, performed by hands calloused from toil and hearts steady with resolve. Let us wander together through these ancient streets, where every cobblestone holds a story, and every flickering lantern illuminates a forgotten craft. Imagine yourself in a medieval town as the evening bells toll softly, their echoes rolling like a lullaby over the rooftops. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from hearths where families gather. You walk slowly, your footsteps muffled on the uneven ground, feeling the day's warmth still lingering in the stones beneath your feet. This town is alive, but in a hushed way. Whispers of conversation drift from open windows, the occasional creak of a door swinging shut. Here, as the light fades, the strange jobs begin to emerge from the daylight shadow. These are not the glamorous pursuits of knights or merchants, but the peculiar, essential labors that sustained life in ways we can scarcely imagine today. Our first strange job takes us to the edges of the town, where the Gong farmer plies his trade under the cover of darkness. Oh, how soothing it is to think of him now, moving with deliberate slowness, his lantern casting a warm, golden glow on the damp earth. The Gong farmer, you see, was the keeper of cleanliness in a world without modern plumbing. In medieval times, households relied on cesspits, deep holes dug beneath privies where waste collected over months. When these pits grew full, it was the Gong farmer's duty to empty them, bucket by bucket, in the quiet hours of night. Picture him there, his breath steady and even, lowering a wooden pail on a rope into the depths. The slosh of liquid is faint, almost rhythmic, like the gentle lap of waves on a distant shore. He works without haste, for spilling would invite not just mess, but fines from the town wardens who patrol these matters. Why at night? You might wonder in your drowsy state. The answer whispers through the ages. Daylight brought crowds and commerce, and such work was deemed unseemly for the bustling streets. So, under the stars, the Gong farmer labored, his cart wheels wrapped in cloth to muffle their rumble. He hauled the contents beyond the town walls, to fields where it would fertilize the soil, turning waste into growth. It's a cycle as eternal as the tides, life feeding life, in the most humble of ways. Listen to the soft scrape of his shovel against stone. It's a sound that lulls, reminding us that even in discomfort, there is purpose. These men were often outcasts, living on the fringes, their clothes carrying the earth's scent long after dawn. Yet, without them, disease would have claimed more lives, and the town would have choked on its own refuse. Drift with me now, imagining the cool night air brushing your face as we leave the Gong farmer to his vigilant watch. As we meander further, the path leads us to the river's edge, where another peculiar figure awaits, the leech collector. Ah, the leech collector, a job as serene as the flowing water itself. In medieval medicine, leeches were prized for bloodletting, believed to balance the humors and cure ailments from fevers to melancholy. But someone had to gather these slippery creatures from the murky depths. Picture her wading into the shallows at dusk, her skirts hitched up, bare legs sinking into the soft mud. The water is cool, rippling gently around her ankles, and the frogs croon a soft chorus in the reeds. She moves with patience, her eyes scanning for the telltale wriggle beneath the surface. With a net, or sometimes just her hands, she scoops them up, placing them in a jar filled with damp moss to keep them alive. The leech collector's world was one of quiet communion with nature. Marshes and ponds were her domain, places where the mist hung low and the world felt timeless. She knew the best spots, where the water was still and the leeches clung to stones or floated lazily. It was not without risk. Bites were common, and the chill could seep into bones. But she worked with a calm acceptance, her breaths matching the slow current. These leeches would be sold to physicians or barbers, who used them in treatments that, while strange to us, were the height of care in their time. Imagine the soft plop as another leech joins its fellows in the jar. It's a sound that echoes the heartbeat of the earth. As night deepens, she returns home, her bounty ready for market, her steps light on the dewy grass. Let this image soothe you. The gentle flow of water, the collector's unhurried grace, a reminder that healing often comes from the most unexpected places. Winding our way back into the heart of the town, we encounter the fuller, whose work fills the air with a rhythmic, almost hypnotic beat. The fuller was essential in the textile trade, transforming raw wool into soft, durable cloth. In a workshop by the stream, he stands knee-deep in vats of warm water mixed with urine or fuller's earth, a natural clay that cleansed and thickened the fibers. His feet stamped steadily, pressing the fabric beneath the surface, the slosh and squelch creating a lullaby of labor. The air is heavy with the scent of wet wool and ammonia, but it's a comforting earthiness, like rain on fresh soil. Hour after hour, he treads, his movements slow and deliberate, ensuring the cloth felts evenly. This job was strange in its intimacy with the body's byproducts. Households collected urine for the fullers, turning everyday waste into a tool of craft. Yet, it was vital. Without fulling, wool remained greasy and weak, unfit for the cloaks that warded off winter's chill or the blankets that cradled sleep. Listen to the soft thud of feet on fabric. It's a cadence that invites drowsiness, a repetition that mirrors the breath in your chest. Fullers often worked in guilds, sharing stories as they labored, their voices low and murmuring like a distant stream. As dawn approaches, the cloth emerges transformed, ready for dyers and tailors. Drift along with me, feeling the warmth of the vat, the satisfaction of creation from the mundane. Now, let us pause by the town square, where the night watchman begins his rounds. Though not as odd as some, his role was peculiar in its solitude, a guardian against the darkness. With a lantern in one hand and a horn in the other, he walks the streets, calling the hours in a voice as steady as a heartbeat. All is well, he intones, his words floating on the night air, reassuring those who stir in their beds. He watches for fires, thieves, or wandering livestock, his steps measured and unhurried. The strange part? In some towns, he also enforced curfews, ensuring that only those with essential night work, like our Gong farmers and fullers, roamed free. Imagine his silhouette against the moonlit walls, the soft glow of his light bobbing like a firefly. It's a job of quiet vigilance, one that allowed the town to sleep soundly. His calls become a familiar rhythm, lulling the listener into peace. As we follow him briefly, the streets seem safer, the night more welcoming. Venturing to the outskirts again, we find a knacker, whose work deals with the end of life for animals. In a yard filled with the scent of hay and hide, he processes fallen beasts, horses too old for the plow, cattle stricken by illness. With tools sharp and sure, he butchers them for meat, bones for glue, hides for leather. It's a somber task performed away from prying eyes, but essential for recycling every part. The knacker's hands move with respect, wasting nothing in a world where scarcity was constant. The soft thud of his mallet, the whisper of skin being stripped, sounds that blend into the night's symphony, reminding us of life's cycle. As the stars wheel overhead, Let's turn to the rat catcher, a figure darting through alleys with traps and poisons. Rats were plagues in medieval towns, spreading disease and devouring stores. The rat catcher, often with a fairer dog at his side, hunted them relentlessly. His job was strange in its cunning, baiting traps with cheese or grain, navigating the dark underbellies of buildings. Picture him crouched low, his breath held, waiting for the snap that signals success. It's a dance with shadows, one that protected granaries and homes. The quiet satisfaction of a job well done, the town safer for his efforts. Deeper into the night, the herb gatherer emerges, basket in arm, foraging for plants under moonlight. She knows the woods like a friend, collecting mandrake for pain, chamomile for sleep. Her job was mystical, blending knowledge of lore and nature. The rustle of leaves, the cool dew on fingers, sensations that soothe as she works. And so, as part one draws to a close, we have wandered through the twilight streets, meeting the Gong farmer, leech collector, fuller, night watchman, knacker, rat catcher, and herb gatherer. Their jobs, strange yet vital, weave the fabric of medieval life. Let their rhythms carry you toward slumber, dear listener. The town sleeps now, but our journey continues in the deeper hours. Welcome back, dear listener, or perhaps you never truly left. The town has settled deeper into sleep now. The last echoes of the watchman's call have faded into the stone walls, and only the softest sounds remain. The occasional sigh of wind moving between houses, the distant drip of water from an overhanging eave, the slow creak of a shutter settling against its frame. If your breathing has already begun to slow, if your eyelids feel pleasantly heavy, then you are exactly where the night wants you to be. Let us continue walking together, deeper into these shadowed lanes, where the strangest and quietest occupations of the medieval world unfold like slow-opening flowers in moonlight. We left the herb gatherer only moments ago. She has returned to her small cottage on the very edge of the common land, where the smell of drying nettles, yarrow, and mugwort clings to every beam. Inside, by the dim red glow of a single rushlight, she sorts her night's harvest with gentle fingers. Each stem is laid flat, each root brushed clean of dark earth. The rustle of leaves is the only sound in the room except for her own soft breathing. She works without hurry. There is no need to rush when the plants themselves teach patience. They grow slowly. They heal slowly. They ask only that you meet them at their own tempo. Tonight she found a particularly fine stand of St. John's wort, its yellow petals still holding the memory of sun, even in darkness. She'll hang it upside down tomorrow to dry, and later infuse it into oil for aching joints or low spirits. In the medieval mind, this plant was said to drive away demons and melancholy alike. Whether or not the demons fled, many people found comfort in its golden warmth rubbed into skin on cold winter evenings. So she works on, her hands moving in the same unvarying rhythm she has kept for decades, a rhythm that has become as familiar as her own heartbeat. Listen to it now, the soft snap of a stem, the faint brush of leaf against leaf, the quiet exhalation as she sets another bundle aside. It is the sound of continuity, of small acts repeated until they become a kind of quiet prayer. As she works, let us slip away again, out through the half-open door, past the snoring dog curled by the hearth, and back into the narrow lanes. The air is cooler here, damper, carrying the faint mineral scent of the town ditch that runs along the outer wall. We are approaching one of the most hidden trades of all, the fuller's apprentice finishing the long night shift alone. Most fullers work in daylight, or at least in the early evening when the light is still kind to the eyes. But in every town of any size there were those who continued through the small hours, either because the vat was not yet ready, or because a particularly large commission had to be ready for the morning market, or simply because the master fuller had learned long ago that uninterrupted hours produce the finest felted cloth. The workshop is low and dark, lit only by 2 fat tallow candles set on iron spikes driven into the wall. The apprentice, perhaps 16, perhaps younger, stands in the great wooden vat that reaches almost to his chest. His legs are bare to the thigh, trousers rolled and tied high. The liquid inside is warm, cloudy, faintly golden from the stale urine collected over many days from the town's taverns and households. Ammonia rises in gentle waves, not sharp anymore after hours of breathing it, just a steady background presence like the smell of hay in a barn. He does not stamp wildly. That would exhaust him too quickly and bruise the cloth unevenly. Instead, he lifts one foot slowly, presses it down with measured weight, shifts his hips, lifts the other. A soft, wet, rhythmic schlup, schlup, schlup fills the room. It is almost oceanic. If you allow your own breathing to match it, slow in, slow out, you may find your thoughts beginning to drift like seaweed on a lazy tide. The cloth beneath his feet is heavy wool, fresh from the loom, still greasy with lanolin. Without this long treading, it would remain stiff, water-repellent in the wrong way, useless for the soft cloaks and hose that people need against winter rain. So he treads, and treads, and treads. Sometimes he pauses to push the fabric under with a long wooden paddle, making sure no part escapes the cleansing bath. Then back to the feet again. Hours pass like this. He is not thinking grand thoughts. He is simply present. Foot, press, shift, breathe. In the corner of the workshop stands a smaller vat already finished. The cloth there has been taken out, rinsed in the stream earlier this evening, and now hangs in long loops from wooden poles, dripping slowly onto the beaten earth floor. Each drop falls with a tiny plink into a shallow channel that carries the water away. That sound, plink, 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 joins the schlup of his feet and becomes its own lullaby. You can almost feel your pulse slowing to match it. When the master fuller arrives at first light, he will find the work advanced, the cloth tighter and softer than it was yesterday. He will grunt approval, perhaps even a rare word of praise, and the boy will be allowed to sleep for a few hours in the loft above the drying racks. But for now, it is only him, the vat, the candlelight, and the endless gentle pressure of foot against wool. Let that image rest with you. A single young body keeping an ancient craft alive through the loneliest hours. Nothing dramatic, just persistence, just quiet devotion to rhythm. We leave him there, still treading as we step back outside. The night has grown thicker. The stars seem lower, brighter. A thin mist is beginning to rise from the river, curling along the streets like slow smoke. It softens every outline, blurs the edges of buildings until the whole town feels wrapped in gray silk. Our path now leads downward, toward the lowest part of the town where the ground stays damp year-round. Here live the tanners and Kias, though most of their heaviest work is done by day. Yet even at this hour, one or two are still at their pits, stirring or skimming, because certain processes cannot be hurried. The smell reaches you first, rich, organic, almost sweet in its heaviness. It is not the sharp stink of fresh waste, but something older, fermented, earthy. The tanning pits are great rectangular holes lined with wood or stone, filled with a brew of oak bark, water, and sometimes urine or dung to help break down the hides. The hides themselves, soaked, limed, dehaired, are submerged for months, sometimes years, turning slowly from raw skin into supple leather. A solitary tanner is here tonight, leaning on a long pole, slowly stirring one of the older pits. The motion is hypnotic. Dip, lift, swirl, dip again. Each circle sends gentle ripples across the dark surface. Occasionally a bubble rises and bursts with a soft pft. He does not rush. There is no point. The bark liquor must penetrate evenly. Impatience ruins an entire season's work. Beside him, hanging on a wooden frame, are hides in various stages, some still pale and glistening, others already taking on the warm brown of finished leather. When the time comes, he will lift them out, oil them, stretch them, shave them thinner if needed. But tonight he only stirs. Stir and watch. Watch and breathe. The smell wraps around you like a heavy blanket. Strange at first, then oddly comforting. The smell of time doing its patient work. In many towns, the tanners were required to live and work downstream from everyone else. Their pits were placed near running water, but far enough that the smell did not drift over the market square. Yet every saddle, every shoe, every belt, every book binding, every shield covering, every harness depended on their slow alchemy. So they stayed, generation after generation, stirring through the night when the rest of the world slept. Let the image settle in your mind. One man, one pole, one dark pit, circles repeating endlessly under starlight. No beginning, no end. Just the turning of seasons inside a wooden vat. We drift onward, following the stream that carries away the used liquor. Its surface glimmers faintly, reflecting fragments of moon. The sound of water moving over stones is very soft now, almost a whisper. Soon we reach the miller's back gate. The great water wheel turns slowly tonight. There is not much grain left to grind before dawn, but the miller's boy has been told to keep the wheel turning so the stones stay warm and true. The creak of wood and the low rumble of stone on stone become part of the night's breathing. Inside the mill, flour dust floats in the air like pale mist, settling on every surface in the gentlest possible way. The boy sits on a sack, half dozing, waking only to check the flow of grain or add another handful when the hopper runs low. He is not afraid of being alone. The mill has its own company, the groan of timber, the hiss of grain, the steady heartbeat of the wheel outside. Sometimes he sings very quietly to himself, old songs his mother taught him, the words blending into the machinery until you cannot tell where the song ends and the mill begins. We do not disturb him. We only listen for a while, letting the turning will carry our thoughts around and around, slower, slower. As we leave the mill behind, the lane climbs again, back toward the heart of the town. We pass the silent houses, shutters closed, only the faintest orange glow showing here and there where someone has left a fire banked low for the night. A cat watches us from a wall, eyes like twin moons, then vanishes without sound. Soon we come to the candle maker's alley. Most candle making happens in daylight, but some small makers work through the night when the town is quiet and the wax behaves best without drafts or sudden movements. Tonight, a single woman sits at her bench, dipping long wicks again and again into a tall pot of melted beeswax. Each dip adds the thinnest layer. Too thick and the candle will drip, too thin and it will burn unevenly. She dips, waits, dips again. The wax is warm gold in the candlelight, fragrant with honey even from across the room. The scent drifts out into the lane, soft and golden, wrapping around you like a promise of morning. She does not look up as we pass. Her world has narrowed to wick, wax, rhythm. Up, pause, down, pause. Each finished taper is set carefully in a wooden rack to harden. By dawn there will be 24 more, ready to light the church, the tavern, the midwife's room, the scholar's desk. Small flames that will allow the town to push back the darkness for a few more hours. Let that fragrance stay with you as we walk on. The sweet, clean smell of bees working through summer, now transformed into light for winter nights. We are nearing the end of this second deep hour. The sky has not yet begun to lighten, but there is a subtle change in the quality of the dark, a sense that the night has reached its fullest depth and is now, very slowly, beginning to exhale. Before we pause again, let us pass one last quiet worker, the bone picker. In the very poorest quarters, where refuse accumulates, children and old women sometimes spent the night gathering anything that could be sold. Bits of charcoal, scraps of cloth, broken pottery, and above all, bones. The bone picker moves with a lantern hooded low, stooping every few paces to lift a rib or a knuckle from the gutter. Her basket is already half full, the contents clicking softly together like dry wood. These bones will be sold to button makers, to glue makers, to alchemists, to the miller for bone meal fertilizer. Nothing is wasted. She works in silence, not because she is unhappy, but because noise would draw dogs or drunken men, or simply because the night itself seems to ask for quiet. We watch her move away down a side lane, lantern light shrinking until it is only a faint pinprick. Then it is gone. And so, dear listener, we have traveled together through another stretch of the medieval night. We have met the herb sorter, the fuller's apprentice, the night tanner, the mill boy, the candle dipper, the bone picker, each one keeping their small portion of the world turning while the rest sleeps. Their motions are slow, their sounds soft, their purpose steady. If your thoughts have grown hazy, if your body feels heavy against the bed or the chair, then the night is doing its gentle work on you too. Rest now. Breathe slowly. We will meet again when you are ready, when the darkness has grown just a little older and the next quiet workers are waiting. The bone picker's lantern has long since vanished around the corner of the crooked lane. The pinprick of light is gone, swallowed by the same darkness that now holds the entire town in its palm. The mist has thickened a little more, settling low along the cobbles so that your imagined footsteps make no sound at all. Only the softest hush remains, the occasional drip from eaves, the far-off sigh of the river meeting its own reflection, the slow creak of a weather vane turning in the high breeze that never quite reaches the streets below. This is the stillest hour, the hinge between deep night and the first pale promise of morning, when even the night watchman has paused to lean against a wall and rest his eyes for a few stolen minutes. No dogs bark, no shutters rattle. The town seems to hold its breath. Yet the work continues. Further along the lane, past the shuttered alehouses and the silent smithy, a narrow door stands slightly ajar. Warm orange light spills out in a thin wedge across the whetstones. Inside sits the rushlight maker, an old woman whose hands have forgotten how to tremble. She works at a low table lit by the very thing she creates. Rushlights are not grand candles. They are humble, a peeled rush dipped repeatedly into melted fat, usually mutton tallow collected from kitchen scraps, until a thin coat of grease hardens around the pith. The pith itself acts as the wick. When lit, a rushlight burns slowly, quietly, giving just enough light to see the outline of a hand or the edge of a cradle. Not for reading books or illuminating feasts, for the small hours when a mother must check on a feverish child, or a weaver must thread a loom before first light, or an old man simply needs to find his cup of water. She peels the rushes with a special knife, long, thin, steady strokes that leave the green outer skin in perfect ribbons on the floor. Then she dips the white pith into the pot of warm fat, holds it upright until the grease sets, dips again. Each layer is thinner than the last. The motion is unvarying. Dip, lift, wait, dip. The only sound is the faint sizzle as the rush meets the hot fat, and the soft tap as she knocks the excess back into the pot. Over and over, 20, 30, 40 times for a single usable length. The room smells of mutton and beeswax. She saves the better wax for church candles when she can afford it, and the faint green scent of fresh peeled rushes. It is not unpleasant. It is the smell of thrift, of making light out of almost nothing. She hums as she works, not a song with words, just a low, wordless tone that rises and falls like breath itself. The sound drifts out the open door and mingles with the mist, so quiet you might mistake it for the wind moving through distant reeds. When she has a dozen finished rushlights laid side by side, she binds them with a twist of twine and sets them on the shelf beside the others. Today, really, she will carry them to market in a shallow basket lined with clean cloth. A penny or two for a bundle. Enough for bread, enough for more fat, enough to keep the peeling knife sharp and the fire low but alive. We leave her there, still dipping, still humming, the small flame on her own working rushlight trembling gently as if nodding in time. The lane curves, then opens onto a small yard behind the butcher's row. Here, in the darkest corner away from the main street, the gut scraper has already begun the night's cleaning. Animal intestines arrive from the day's slaughter. Pigs mostly, sometimes sheep or calves. They must be cleaned, scraped, salted, sometimes soaked in water, scented with herbs to remove the strongest odors. Only then can they become sausage casings, lute strings, or the fine gut used by surgeons for stitching wounds. He works at a long wooden trough under a single hooded lantern. The water is changed frequently, so it never grows too foul. His tool is a blunt, smooth stick, not sharp enough to tear, just firm enough to push away the inner lining. Scrape, rinse, turn, scrape again. The motion is slow, almost meditative. Water sloshes softly against the sides of the trough. Every so often he pauses to stretch his fingers, to wipe his hands on the apron that has long since ceased to be white. This work was despised, and yet indispensable. Without clean casings there will be no blood puddings, no salami, no coiled sausages hanging in the smokehouse rafters. Without gut for strings, the lute and rebeck would fall silent, and the dancing in the square would lose its heartbeat. So he scrapes through the night, alone with the slosh and the lantern's steady glow. The sound is regular. Scrape, slosh, scrape, slosh. It blends with your own breathing, if you let it. And scrape out slosh, and scrape out slosh. A gentle tide, pulling you deeper into rest. We slip away again, following the scent of wood smoke that grows stronger as we near the edge of the common grazing land. Here stands a charcoal burner's clamp, a low dome of earth and turf built over a carefully stacked pile of wood. The burner himself is asleep inside his small shelter of branches and canvas, but the fire inside the clamp is still alive, smoldering slowly, steadily, turning wood into black treasure without ever bursting into open flame. He wakes every few hours to check the vents, small holes near the top that let just enough air in to keep the burn slow and even. Tonight he has risen once already, adjusted a clump of turf, listened to the soft hiss inside the mound, then returned to his pallet. Now he sleeps again, one arm thrown over his eyes, breathing in time with the hidden fire. Charcoal was essential. The blacksmith needed it for his forge, hotter and cleaner than ordinary wood. The glassmaker, the potter, the lime burner, all relied on its steady, smokeless heat. So the charcoal burner lived half in smoke, half in forest, tending his clamps for days at a time, sleeping when he could, waking when the fire whispered that it needed him. Even now, though he sleeps, the clamp breathes. A faint warmth rises from the earth. A faint scent of smoldering oak drifts on the mist. You can almost feel it against your skin if you stand close enough. Not hot, just gently present, like the memory of a fire you once sat beside as a child. We leave the sleeping burner and the slow, invisible fire. The path turns back toward the town walls, climbing a gentle slope where the ground is drier and the air a fraction lighter. Near the gate, closed now until dawn, sits the bell ringer's lodging in the base of the tower. The great bell above is silent tonight, but the ringer has not yet gone to bed. He is oiling the ropes, checking the clapper for cracks, running a cloth along the bronze curve that has rung curfew, matins, alarms, weddings, deaths. His hands move with the same slow reverence one might use to polish an heirloom. The tower room is small, round, lit by a single oil lamp. The flame is steady. No drafts reach this deep inside the stone. He works without sound save for the occasional soft clink of metal on metal, the faint creak of rope against wood. When he finishes, he will climb the spiral stair one last time before dawn, just to stand beside the bell and lay his palm against it, feeling the lingering warmth of the last ringing. It is not superstition. It is affection. The bell is his companion, his voice, his duty. We listen for a moment to the quiet that surrounds his small movements. Then we descend again, back into the streets that are beginning, very faintly, very far off, to feel the first stirrings of morning. A baker's apprentice has already risen, not in the main oven house yet. That comes later, but in the storeroom, sifting flour by lamplight. The sieve moves in wide, lazy circles. Fine white dust rises and settles, rises and settles. Each pass of the sieve is slow, deliberate. He is half asleep on his feet, eyes half closed, yet the motion never falters. Sieve pause. The flour falls like snow onto the wooden board below. Soon the master will come, and the real kneading will begin. But for now it is only this. One boy, one sieve, one soft cloud of flour drifting in the lamplight. A promise that bread will be ready when the town wakes. The sky has not yet paled, but the darkness feels thinner somehow, less heavy on the shoulders. The mist is beginning to lift in places, revealing the faint outline of rooftops against the stars. We have walked through another stretch of the night. We have met the rushlight maker, the gut scraper, the charcoal burner, the bell ringer tending his silent companion, the flour sifter already preparing tomorrow's loaves. Each one moving in their own small circle of light, their own quiet rhythm. The town is not finished sleeping. There is still time. Rest deeper if you can. Let the sounds linger. The dip of wax, the scrape of gut, the hiss of hidden charcoal, the sift of flour. They are not loud. They are not urgent. They are simply there, like your own breath, carrying you forward. The flour dust still hangs in the air of the baker's storeroom, settling slowly now like the finest snow, coating the boy's hair and shoulders in pale softness. He has finished the last sieveful and begun to sweep the board clean with a goosewing brush, long, languid strokes that make almost no sound. The lamp beside him flickers once, twice, then steadies again. Outside, the mist has begun to thin in places, revealing the faint silver outline of rooftops against a sky that is no longer utterly black. The stars are still bright, but they seem farther away, as though the night itself is beginning to withdraw, very gently, very slowly. Yet the town has not yet stirred. Most windows remain dark. Most hearths are banked low. The deepest sleep still holds sway. We drift onward, following the gentle slope of the street that leads past the old almshouses and toward the parish churchyard wall. Here, pressed against the cold stone, stands the plasterer's shed, a lean-to of weathered boards where one man works alone by the light of 3 linked oil lamps. He is not preparing for a grand hall or a noble's chamber tonight. Tonight he mixes small batches of lime plaster for tomorrow's repairs. Cracks in the church porch, a crumbling corner of the almshouse chimney, a patch where rain has seeped into the sacristy wall. The plaster is made the old way, slaked lime from the kiln outside town, mixed with sharp sand and a little animal hair for strength. He stirs the trough with a wooden paddle, slow circles that send faint ripples across the creamy surface. Every few turns he pauses, dips 2 fingers in, rubs them together, nods to himself. Too wet and it will slump, too dry and it will crack as it sets. The feel must be exactly right, smooth, yielding, but with body. The scent rises gently, clean lime, a hint of wet earth, the faint animal warmth of the hair. It is not unpleasant in small quantities. It is the smell of renewal, of mending what time and weather have worn away. He works the mixture until it is even, then begins to ladle it into shallow wooden trays to rest and stiffen slightly before morning use. Each scoop is measured, each tray leveled with the flat of his paddle. No haste, no waste. The lamps cast long shadows that sway softly across the shed walls, mirroring the slow rhythm of his arms. When the last tray is filled, he covers them with damp sacking to keep the surface from drying too fast. Then he sits on an upturned crate, wipes his hands on a rag already stiff with old plaster, and allows himself one long, quiet breath. The night is almost spent, but he has done what needed doing. Tomorrow the plaster will go on smoothly, white and fresh, hiding the scars of winter storms. For now he rests, eyes half closed, listening to the faint pop of the lamp wicks and the distant, intermittent drip from the church eaves. We leave him there in his small pool of lamplight and move on, skirting the churchyard where the yew trees stand dark and ancient. Their branches hang low, brushing the tops of gravestones with soft, whispering sounds whenever the breeze moves. Beyond the wall lies the open common, and at its far edge, near the first rise of woodland, glows the faint red heart of the lime kiln. The lime burner has been tending his fire since midnight. He feeds it carefully, more coal, less wood now, to keep the heat steady and fierce. Inside the domed stone kiln, limestone chunks are changing. The fire dries out the carbon dioxide, leaving quicklime behind. It is slow alchemy. The burner watches the smoke rising from the vent at the top, thin, bluish, almost invisible against the night sky. When it thickens or changes color, he adds a little more fuel, adjusts the air holes with an iron rod. Too much air and the fire roars wastefully. Too little and the burn stalls. He works mostly by feel and by the color of the flame seen through a small spy hole. White hot means all is well. Orange means ease back. Red means feed it. His face is streaked with soot, but his movements are calm, practiced. Every hour or so he rakes out a little of the finished lime from the bottom draw hole. Hot, powdery, hissing faintly as it meets the damp night air. He barrows it to a covered heap, where it will cool and slake before being carted to builders like our plasterer. The kiln gives off a gentle warmth that reaches several paces away. Standing near it, you feel it on your face and hands. Not scorching, just deep and steady, like leaning close to a large, slow-breathing animal. The burner himself rarely speaks of it, but there is a quiet pride in keeping this ancient fire alive through the night. Without lime there would be no mortar to bind stones, no plaster to smooth walls, no whitewash to brighten rooms and ward off damp. So he tends and feeds and watches, hour after hour. We linger only long enough to feel that warmth settle into our bones, then turn back toward the town gates, where the first faint gray is beginning to touch the eastern horizon. Not dawn yet, but the memory of dawn. Near the gatehouse stands a locksmith's forge, shuttered in dark save for one small window high up. Inside, the locksmith works by rushlight and the glow of his own small hearth. He is filing a new key for the alderman's strongbox, a delicate job that cannot wait for daylight, noise, and interruptions. The file moves in short, even strokes, forward, back, forward, back. Each pass removes the thinnest whisper of metal. He pauses often to test the key in a scrap lock, listening for the soft click of alignment. The sound is tiny, precise. Scritch, scritch, click, pause, scritch. It is the sound of patience made audible. Around him hang dozens of keys on hooks, old, new, large, small, each one a small story of trust and secrecy. He does not hurry. A key forced or filed too quickly will bind, will fail, will cost more time in the end. So he works as the night thins, filing, testing, filing again, until the new key turns sweetly and the locked tongue slides home with a satisfying snick. We leave him to his final refinements and move deeper into the town once more, past the silent market cross, past the row of weavers' houses where looms stand motionless until morning. In a narrow court behind the weaver's row lives the dyer's apprentice, who has been left to tend the indigo vats through the small hours. The vats must not cool too quickly, or the dye will settle unevenly. So he stirs them gently with a long pole, keeping the liquid moving in slow, hypnotic circles. The surface gleams deep blue-black under the lantern light, almost liquid night itself. Every so often he lifts a test strip of wool, lets it drip, watches the color deepen as it oxidizes in the air, from greenish to true indigo in moments. The smell is rich, vegetal, faintly metallic. Not sweet, but not foul. Just heavy, ancient, like the scent of earth after long rain. He stirs, watches, stirs again. The rhythm is unbroken. Dip pole, circle left, circle right, lift strip, observe, return pole. It is work that demands attention without excitement. Perfect for these fading hours when the mind wants to drift, but the hands must stay present. By the time the master returns, the vats will be ready for the day's dipping. Cloth will come out deep and rich, ready to become the blue hoods of the guildsmen, the veils of respectable wives, the banners that flutter on feast days. For now it is only this boy, this pole, this slow blue whirl in the lamplight. The sky has paled another shade. A single bird calls once, far off, testing the air, then falling silent again. The town is on the very cusp of waking, but not yet. We have met the plasterer, the lime burner, the locksmith filing through the night, the indigo stirrer keeping color alive in darkness. Their motions are slow, their lights small, their sounds soft as breath. The night is not done with us yet. There is still a little more shadow to explore, a little more quiet labor to witness. Let the rhythms stay with you. The stir of plaster, the hiss of quicklime, the scritch of file, the soft swirl of indigo. They carry no urgency. They ask nothing of you but to listen, to breathe, to let them pull you deeper into rest. The indigo vat still turns in slow, dreaming circles behind the weaver's court, the apprentice's pole moving as if guided by some invisible current rather than his own tired arms. The blue-black surface catches the very first ghost of light from the eastern sky. Not true dawn, not yet, but a softening at the edges of the darkness, a faint dilution of black into deepest indigo. The boy notices it without pausing. He has seen this moment many times, the night refusing to leave all at once, lingering like a guest who knows he must go but cannot quite bring himself to stand. We drift past him, leaving the rich vegetal scent of the dye behind, and follow the narrow alley that opens onto the main street near the town's western gate. Here the buildings stand a little farther apart, and the air feels cleaner, carrying the faint green promise of fields beyond the walls. A low stone wall runs alongside the lane, and perched upon it, motionless as a statue, is the dovecot keeper, already awake to tend his charges before the rest of the town rises. The dovecot itself is a tall, round tower of wattle and daub, its roof conical and pierced with small flight holes near the top. Pigeons, hundreds of them, roost inside on wooden perches and nesting boxes. They belong to the lord of the manor, or sometimes to the church, or occasionally to a wealthy merchant who keeps them as a privilege. The keeper is their daily caretaker. He cleans the floor of droppings, which will become prize fertilizer, checks nests for eggs or squabs, clips wings when needed to prevent escape, and ensures the birds are healthy and plump. This morning he has climbed the internal ladder with a lantern hooked to his belt. The light moves slowly upward through the tower, casting shifting patterns on the soft gray feathers. A gentle cooing fills the space, not loud, not frantic, just a constant, throaty murmur like distant water over pebbles. He reaches the topmost perches, checks a few nests with careful fingers, collects 3 warm eggs into a small woven basket slung over his shoulder. Then he scatters a handful of grain, barley mixed with a little hemp seed, into the feeding trays below. The birds flutter down in a soft rush of wings, their landing almost silent on the straw-strewn floor. He watches them for a moment, ensuring the weaker ones get their share, then descends again, rung by rung, the cooing fading behind him. Outside, He sets the eggs carefully on the wall beside him. Later they will go to the Lord's kitchen or be sold for a few pence. The droppings he has swept into sacks will be carried to the fields at first light. Pigeon guano was one of the richest manures known, quick-acting, high in nitrogen, and farmers paid well for it. So the keeper's quiet labor links the dovecot to the bread on the table, the vegetables in the pot, the green of spring crops. He sits now on the wall, back against the cool stone, and lets the birds settle. The cooing drifts out through the flight holes, a living lullaby that seems to rise and fall with the slow beat of his own heart. We leave him there, surrounded by soft feathers and softer sounds, and move onward along the wall toward the open space where the town's laundress has her washing place near the stream. She has risen even earlier than most, because hot water cools quickly, and the best light for spotting stains is the first pale hour. A small fire burns under a great iron cauldron, sending up wisps of steam that mingle with the mist. Beside it stand a wooden tub filled with linens, shirts, shifts, tablecloths, bandages, boiled overnight in water, scented with wood ash lye. Now she lifts them out one by one with a long stick, lets them drain, then carries them to the stream's edge where flat stones have been worn smooth by generations of pounding. She kneels, dips a garment, rubs it against the stone in slow, rolling motions. The water runs cold over her hands, but she does not flinch. Each rub is deliberate, along the seams, around the neck, over any stubborn mark. The sound is rhythmic and gentle. Splash, rub, splash, rub. Sometimes she pauses to wring the cloth, twisting it between strong hands until water drips and steady silver threads back into the stream. Then back to the stone. The early light catches the droplets, turning them briefly to tiny stars before they vanish. Laundry was women's work in most households, but for the wealthier families, or the inns, or the hospital, a professional laundress was hired. Her hands were red and chapped year-round, her back bent from years of bending, yet she moved with a quiet pride. Clean linen was more than comfort. It was health, it was decency, it was the boundary between sickness and recovery. So she washes on, garment after garment, as the sky pales one shade further. The stream itself murmurs approval, carrying away the last traces of soap and sweat. We follow its flow for a little while, letting the water's voice become part of the breathing of the night's end. Nearby, under the shelter of an overhanging willow, the basket maker has already begun his day. He works outdoors even in winter because the osiers, willow rods cut the previous season, are best soaked and bent when the air is cool and damp. A pile of long, supple shoots lies beside him, soaked overnight in the stream. He selects one, strips any remaining leaves with a quick twist of his thumb, then begins to weave. His fingers move with the same slow certainty as the laundress's hands. Over, under. The basket grows in even rows. A simple trug for vegetables today, perhaps a larger one for fish tomorrow. The osiers make a soft clicking sound as they cross, a faint creak as they bend. He pauses occasionally to dampen the rods with water from a bucket, keeping them pliable. The scent of fresh willow is clean and green, like cut grass after rain. Baskets were everywhere in the medieval world, for carrying, for storage, for fishing, for market, for cradles. They were cheap, light, renewable. The basket maker's skill turned a hedgerow weed into necessity. He works without haste, letting the pattern emerge under his hands as naturally as breath. By full light, he will have 3 or 4 finished, ready to sell or trade. For now he weaves, and the willow whispers its own quiet song. The sky has turned the color of skimmed milk, pale, translucent, the stars fading one by one. A rooster crows once, far off, then falls silent, as if embarrassed to have spoken too soon. We pass the basket maker and circle back toward the center of the town, where where the horn worker keeps his small workshop in a shed behind the tanner's yard. He too is awake, sorting the day's raw horns, cow, goat, sheep, brought from yesterday's slaughter. Some will become drinking horns, polished smooth and etched with simple designs. Others will be heated, sliced, pressed flat into lantern panes or spoon blanks or combs. He selects a large ox horn, holds it over a low charcoal brazier until it softens, then slips it between wooden forms to flatten it. The heat is gentle. Too much, and the horn scorches or cracks. He waits, watching the color change from pale to translucent amber, then clamps the forms tight and sets them aside to cool slowly. The smell is faint, warm animal, a touch of smoke, nothing harsh. When the horn is cool enough, he will saw it, file it, polish it with pumice and oil until it gleams like thin glass. Horn was used for countless small things: buttons, spoons, lantern windows, ink horns, even early spectacles frames. It was tough, translucent, cheap. The worker's hands move with long familiarity, each step unhurried, each pause thoughtful. The soft rasp of file on horn joins the distant drip of the stream and the fading coo of doves. Dawn is very near now. The town begins to feel the change. A shutter creaks open somewhere. A child coughs once in sleep. A dog stretches and yawns. But the night's workers are not yet done. We have walked with the dovecot keeper, the laundress pounding linen, the basket weaver bending willow, the horn worker shaping translucent amber. Their rhythms are steady, their lights dimming as the sky brightens. Their purpose is quiet and certain as the turning of the earth. The air holds the first true breath of morning, cool, fresh, edged with the promise of light. Yet there is still shadow enough for a few more quiet labors. Let the sounds carry you, the coo of doves, the splash and rub of wet cloth, the click of willow rods, the soft rasp of file on horn. They are fading, but not gone. They linger like the last notes of a long, gentle song. The horn worker sets his last polished piece on the rack to catch the first true rays that will soon slip over the rooftops. The amber glow of the flattened horn catches a whisper of gray-blue light from the window slit, still faint, but no longer borrowed from stars or lanterns alone. He exhales once, long and slow, rubs his palms together as if to warm them against the coming day rather than the fading night, then begins to bank the small brazier with ash. The coals sigh as they settle, a final soft breath before sleep. Beyond the shed wall the town is beginning its slow, reluctant awakening. Not the clamor of full day, not yet, but the preliminary sounds. A latch lifted quietly, a window shutter creaking open on rusty hinges, the first low murmur of voices exchanging good mornings through half-closed doors. A child's cough echoes from an upper room, quickly hushed by a mother's palm. A bucket clanks against a well rim, water splashing as the first draw of the day begins. We move with the light now, following its pale advance along the main street toward the market square. Here, at the corner where the fishmongers will soon set up their stalls, the night soil collector's cart stands waiting, still loaded from the final rounds, wheels wrapped in rags to keep the noise low even at this hour. The collector himself has just returned from the last emptying. He is unhitching the patient mule, rubbing its neck with slow circles, murmuring words too soft to carry. The animal lowers its head, exhales warm breath that clouds briefly in the cool air. The cart's barrels are sealed tight with wooden lids and rope lashings. Inside, the last of the town's night harvest, cesspit contents from the poorest lanes and the inns alike. Soon he will drive the cart beyond the walls to the designated spreading fields, where the waste will be turned into the earth before the sun climbs too high and the smell becomes unbearable to passers-by. But for these few minutes he pauses. He leans against the cart's side, eyes half closed, letting the mule crop at a tuft of grass that is pushed between two cobbles. The quiet is almost complete again. Only the soft tearing of grass, the occasional stamp of a hoof, the distant cluck of hens stirring in their coops. This man has walked every back lane the town possesses, lantern low, bucket in hand, ladder on shoulder. He knows which householders pay promptly, which ones pretend not to hear the knock, which privies are shallow, and which threaten to collapse under too much weight. He has breathed air no one else willingly breathes, yet he carries himself with the same unhurried dignity as the lord riding to hunt. Without his labor the town would sicken faster than any plague could manage. So he stands, one hand on the mule's withers, waiting for the sky to lighten enough to see the road clearly. We leave him there and drift across the square, past the empty market stalls still draped in canvas, toward the low building where the brewster, the woman who brews the town's small beer, has already lit her copper. The fire beneath the great cauldron is banked high now, water just beginning to tremble toward simmer. She moves between barrels and sieves with the same measured pace she has kept since youth. Malted barley, steeped yesterday, now drained and spread on the malting floor to sprout, though that work waits for full light. For now she tends the boil, hops at it in careful handfuls, the green scent rising sharp and clean against the heavier malt sweetness. She stirs with a long paddle carved from ash wood, the motion broad and slow, sending lazy swirls across the surface. Small beer was the everyday drink, weak, nourishing, safer than the water drawn from wells near privies or tanning pits. Children drank it, workers drank it, the sick were given it. Her brew would be ready by midday, cooled in shallow troughs, then barreled for the inns and households. She tastes it once with a small wooden cup, nods to herself, adjusts the fire with a poker. The flames lick upward, steady and golden, casting her shadow long across the flagstones. The scent wraps the air, warm grain, bitter hops, faint smoke, a promise that the day will be met with something comforting in every cup. She hums as she works, low and wordless, the same tune the rushlight maker carried earlier. It seems to drift from house to house in these early hours, a thread connecting the night's last workers to the day's first. The sky has shifted again, no longer milk but pearl, the palest rose tint touching the undersides of clouds far to the east. A second rooster answers the first, closer now, more confident. Somewhere a door opens fully, footsteps sound on stone. Near the church porch the bell ringer climbs the spiral stair once more. This time not to tend the bell, but to ring the dawn hour, matins for those who pray, a gentle summons for those who rise by need rather than devotion. He reaches the belfry, lays both hands on the rope, breathes once deeply, then pulls. The great bell speaks, not the harsh clang of alarm, but a single measured note, deep and round, rolling out over the rooftops like a wave spreading across still water. 1, pause 2, pause 3. Each toll is slow, deliberate, allowing the sound to die away before the next begins. The vibration lingers in the stone, in the air, in the bones. Below, shutters open farther, candles are snuffed, hearths are stirred back to life. The town exhales. The night is over, though its quiet labors echo still in the rhythm of the day that follows. We stand in the square as the last toll fades. The light is stronger now, true dawn, soft gold filtering between buildings, touching the mule's ears, glinting on wet cobbles, warming the copper cauldron's rim. The brewster lifts her paddle, lets the wort drip back into the boil. The night soil collector leads his mule forward, cartwheels creaking once, softly. The bell ringer descends a stair, rope coiled over his shoulder, face calm. We have walked with the night's soil man, the brewster tending her copper, the bell ringer sending the first note of morning across the sleeping town. Their work bridges darkness and light, necessity and comfort, silence, and the slow return of sound. The day is coming, but the quiet has not yet fully departed. It lingers in the spaces between footsteps, in the steam rising from the cauldron, in the echo of the bell still hanging in the air. Let that echo carry you. The soft gold light, the warm scent of malt and hops, the patient tread of the mule. They ask nothing now, but that you rest a little longer, breathe a little deeper, allow the boundary between night and day to blur just a few moments more. The bell's final toll has long since dissolved into the morning air, leaving only the softest vibration in the stones of the church tower, like the memory of a long-held breath finally released. The light has strengthened now, not harsh, not sudden, but a slow, golden bloom spreading from the east, touching first the highest rooftops, then the gables, then the eaves, until even the shadowed alleys begin to glow with pale warmth. Mist lingers in pockets near the stream and the low-lying yards, but it thins with every passing minute, revealing the town as if a great curtain were being drawn back with infinite care. The Brewster lifts the last hop sack from a boil, hangs it a drain over the coppa's rim, and steps back to watch the wort settle. Steam rises in lazy spirals, catching the new light and turning briefly to gold before vanishing. She wipes her hands on her apron, stained with years of malt and ash, and allows herself one long moment of stillness. The day's first customers will arrive soon. The innkeeper's boy for a firkin, the midwife for a small jug to carry to a new mother, the weaver needing something milder than water for his parched throat after the night shift. But for these few heartbeats, the square belongs only to her, the copper, and the rising sun. Across the square, the night soil collector has already led his mule through the western gate. The cart creaks once as the wheels cross the threshold of stone to packed earth. The road beyond the walls is quiet. Only the soft clip-clop of hooves, the occasional jingle of the harness bells he ties on for the journey home. He drives slowly, letting the mule choose its pace. The barrels sway gently behind him, sealed and silent now. When he reaches the spreading fields, he will tip them one by one, spreading the contents in wide arcs with a long-handled scoop, turning waste back in a promise for the next planting. The earth will drink it in. The crops will rise green and strong. The circle will close again without fanfare. He does not think of it in grand terms. He simply drives, breathes the clean morning air, feels the first warmth on his face after a night spent in the town's darker corners. We follow the light instead, letting it guide us toward the eastern edge of the town where the potter's kiln has been cooling since the small hours. The potter himself, gray-haired, hands permanently stained with red clay, has risen with the dawn to open the door of the kiln and begin the slow unloading. The heat still radiates gently from the brick dome. He waits a few minutes more, fanning the door with a flat board to encourage even cooling. Too fast, and the pots crack. Too slow, and the day's work is delayed. When the temperature allows, he reaches in with long tongs, lifting the first piece, a wide bowl glazed in pale green, its surface smooth as river stone. He sets it on a wooden shelf with the reverence one might give to a newborn. Then another, a jug with a pulled handle, still warm to the touch. Then cups, plates, a tall ewer meant for the abbey refectory. Each piece is inspected, turned slowly in the light, checked for hairline fractures, for bubbles in the glaze, then placed according to size and purpose. The kiln's interior glows faintly orange as he works deeper inside. The air smells of baked clay, wood smoke, and the faint mineral sweetness of feldspar. Pottery was everywhere. Cooking pots that could withstand open flames, storage jars for grain and ale, tiles for floors, even small figurines for children or household shrines. The potter's hands have shaped thousands. His kiln has fired thousands more. He works now in silence, save for the soft clink of pottery against wood, the rustle of his apron, the distant bird song that has begun to rise in earnest. The sun climbs higher. Shadows shorten. Roosters answer one another across the rooftops in a loose, unhurried chorus. Children's voices begin to drift from open doors. First sleepy murmurs, then laughter, then the quick patter of bare feet on stone. Near the market cross the fishwife has wheeled her barrow into position. She has walked from the river before first light, nets heavy with perch, roach, eels still writhing faintly in the damp straw. Now she arranges them on clean rushes, silver flanks gleaming, eyes bright as glass beads. She sprinkles water from a bucket to keep them cool and glistening. Her knife flashes, quick, precise, cleaning and gutting as early customers approach. The scent of fresh river water and scales mingles with the malt steam still drifting from the Brewster's door. She calls her prices in a low, musical voice, not shouting yet, just enough to carry across the square. Fresh perch, 2 a penny eels for stew, fine and fat. We drift past her barrow and toward the open space beyond the cross, where the blacksmith's apprentice has already kindled the forge. The master still sleeps in a loft above, but the boy has been taught well. Bellows pumped slowly to bring the coals from dull red to bright orange, then to the steady white heat needed for the day's work. He lays out tools, hammer, tongs, punches, each in its proper place on the bench. The anvil gleams in the growing light, its surface pitted from years of ringing blows. He pumps the bellows again, slow, even strokes, and the coals answer with a soft roar. Sparks drift upward like fireflies escaping into morning. He will begin soon with horseshoes for the carter's team, nails for the carpenter, a new latch for the alderman's gate. For now he stands in the doorway, watching the square wake, feeling the heat on his face like a second sunrise. The town is fully stirring now. Doors open wider. Smoke rises from a dozen chimneys in slender columns. A woman shakes a rug from an upper window, dust motes dancing in the slanting light. A boy runs across the square with a wooden hoop, laughing as it clatters over the cobbles. Yet amid the growing sound and motion, pockets of quiet labor remain. The water carrier has shouldered his yoke and 2 buckets, heading for the public conduit to fill them before the queues form. He walks with steady, rolling steps, water sloshing softly against the wooden staves. Each trip earns a few pence. Each full bucket means a family can cook, wash, drink through the day. He nods to those he passes, wordless greetings exchanged in lifted chin or half smile. Near the hospital gate, the herbalist opens her shop shutters. She has spent the night sorting and tying bundles. Now she hangs them from the rafters. Lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, feverfew for headache. The air inside becomes thick with scent as sunlight pours through the open front. She works with slow fingers, labeling each bundle with a scrap of parchment, for the head, for the heart, for the womb. Patients will come soon, those with aching joints, sleepless nights, new mothers needing tonics. She greets them all with the same calm voice, the same careful measurements. The sun is well above the horizon now. Light floods the square, turning the cobbles from gray to gold. The fishwife's barrow is half empty. The blacksmith hammer begins its first measured strikes. Clang, 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 a heartbeat for the waking town. We have walked with the potter unloading his kiln, the fishwife arranging her catch, the apprentice stoking the forge, the water carrier balancing his yoke, the herbalist hanging her remedies. Their motions blend into the day's rhythm, slow at first, then steadier, then purposeful. The night's strangest jobs have slipped back into shadow, waiting for dusk to return. The day's work takes their place, ordinary, visible, essential. Yet the line between them is thin. Every loaf, every shoe, every roof tile, every sip of ale carries the echo of those quiet hours when the town rested on the shoulders of the unseen. Let the morning light rest on you now. Feel its gentle warmth. Hear the soft clatter of daily life beginning. Smell the mix of river fish, forge smoke, fresh bread drifting from the baker's oven. The strange jobs of the night have done their part. The day opens slowly, kindly, inviting you to stay a little longer in its soft unfolding. The blacksmith's hammer has found its steady cadence now. Clang, 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 clang. Each strike ringing clear across the square like a heartbeat made of iron. Sparks fly in bright, brief arcs, vanishing before they can touch the ground. The apprentice pumps the bellows in time with the blows, face flushed from heat and effort, yet his movements remain measured, never frantic. The forge fire roars softly behind him, a living thing fed and contained, giving life to every nail, every horseshoe, every hinge the town will use today. The sun stands fully risen, no longer a promise but a presence, warm gold spilling over every roof tile, every cobble, every face that now turns upward to greet it. Shadows have shrunk to thin dark lines beneath walls and carts. The mist is gone entirely. The air is clear, carrying the mingled scents of fresh bread from the baker's ovens, river water from the fishwife's barrow, smoke from a dozen waking hearths, and the faint green promise of fields beyond the walls. In the market square, the day's true rhythm has begun. Stalls unfold like waking flowers, canvas awnings rolled back, trestle tables set with loaves still steaming, wheels of cheese wrapped in cloth, bundles of herbs tied with twine, bolts of woolen cloth dyed the night before in those patient indigo vats. Voices rise, not shouting yet, but a gentle swell of greeting, bargaining, laughter. Good morrow, Mistress Agnes. Your honey cakes smell finer than ever. 2 pennies for the eels, no less. They're fresh from the weir at dawn. A child runs between legs, clutching a crust of bread, laughing as a stray dog trots hopefully behind. Yet even in this bright bustle, traces of the night remain if one knows where to look. The Gong farmer, our first companion of the dark hours, has long since returned to his small house on the town's edge. He sleeps now, shutters closed tight against the light, the smell of his work still clinging faintly to his clothes despite the bucket of stream water he poured over himself before lying down. His dreams, if he dreams at all, are quiet and deep, the same slow rhythm of bucket lowered, bucket raised, repeated until even sleep becomes a kind of labor. The leech collector lies curled on a straw pallet in a riverside hut, jars of leeches stacked neatly beside the door, each one breathing slowly in its moss bed. She sleeps with one hand resting on the basket, as though even in rest, she guards the creatures that sustain her living. The fuller's apprentice has finally climbed to the loft above the workshop. The great vats stand empty now, rinsed and waiting for the next load. He sleeps on a thin mattress of old sacking, feet still faintly wrinkled from hours in the ammonia bath. Yet his breathing is even, his body slack with the relief of finished labor. The charcoal burner wakes briefly as the sun touches his shelter, checks the clamp one last time. Smoke still thin, burn still even, then returns to sleep, knowing the mound will hold its heat for another day or two without him. The rushlight maker has carried her bundles to market already, sold them to the chandler and the midwife, and now sits on her own doorstep in the thin shade of her eaves, eyes closed, face tilted toward the warmth. She does not sleep, only rests, letting the sun do what no tallow ever could, ease the ache in her fingers. One by one the night's strange workers have stepped back into shadow, not gone, not erased, simply waiting. Their labor does not vanish with the dark. It becomes the invisible foundation on which the bright day stands. Every clean courtyard this morning was swept by hands that worked while others dreamed. Every loaf rising in the baker's oven was made possible by grain safe from rats, fields fertilized by night soil, water carried before queues formed. Every cloak draped over a market stall began, as well cleaned, and felt it in urine vats by feet that never stopped moving. Every candle burning tonight in tavern and sick room was dipped by patient hands in the small hours. The strangest jobs were never strange in themselves. They were only the town's deepest necessities dressed in shadow. They were the quiet answer to questions no one asked aloud. Who keeps the waste from choking us? Who gathers the creatures that heal? Who turns filth into cloth, bone into light, willow into carrying? Who makes sure the town can wake each morning and pretend the night never happened? As the sun climbs higher, the square fills. Children chase hoops. Women carry baskets. Men lead mules laden with firewood. Apprentices hurry with messages. Priests walk in slow procession to morning mass. Life turns outward, visible, loud, ordinary. But if you pause, just for a moment, and listen beneath the chatter, beneath the clatter of hooves and the call of vendors, you can still hear the faint echoes. The soft slosh of a bucket lowered into a cesspit. The rhythmic schlup of feet in a fulling vat. The gentle coo of doves settling on perches. The slow scrape of gut against wood. The hiss of charcoal burning without flame. The dip and lift of wax on wick. The scritch of file shaping a key in darkness. Those sounds do not vanish. They become part of the day's music, so familiar they are almost inaudible. Yet without them the harmony would falter. Dear listener, we have walked together through an entire medieval night and into its morning. We have met the people who labored while the world slept, who turned necessity into craft, disgust into usefulness, darkness into quiet purpose. Their strangeness was only strangeness to eyes that looked away. To the town itself, they were simply essential. Now the sun is high. The market hums. The day has claimed its own. Yet when dusk returns, as it always does, the lanterns will be lit again, the curfew bell will toll, and the hidden workers will step once more into the streets. The circle will turn, the night will breathe, and the strange jobs will continue, soft and steady, keeping the world turning while most of us dream. Rest now, if you wish, or open your eyes to the daylight around you. Either way, carry this with you. Nothing in the human story is truly hidden. It is only waiting to be seen, in the right light, at the right hour. The walk is finished, but the town, its night, its day, its quiet necessities, goes on.